Hi, everybody. Hopefully, the sound is better this time around, but happy Sunday. I realized, well, I didn't realize when I scheduled this live stream that I am competing with the Olympics and I'm competing with House of Dragons. So let's see what happens. But tonight, we are talking all things castor oil. I got so many comments and questions after this video upload, even though the sound in the video was atrocious. I'm and I'm going to address that. Hopefully, I'll lay to rest what actually happened. But well, I'll start off with that. I switched editing software, and I've been doing this for 2 years. So the earlier software that I began using was kind of like the training wheels version of software. I won't. Well, it's Cyberlink. And for any editors out there that might watch this, it's I loved it. I loved it because it was ready to go. Everything was in template format. I could just click and everything was done for me. And throughout the course of time, I became better at editing. My early videos were really just kind of very basic. I mean, if you go back and you watch them, there's not much going on. It's me sitting in front of the camera and maybe an occasional pop up here. The music was also me trying to learn levels and everything like that. But so, yeah, that software served its purpose for a while. And then about 4 months ago, maybe, I got the brilliant idea that I was ready to use software that was a little more complex and gave me a little more flexibility in what I wanted to do. So I signed on to Adobe Premiere Pro. And let me just tell you, it took me, so the video that I had done I was reacting to the Pain Free You channel. That particular video was, uh, it's 33 minutes long, and it took me probably a month to edit a 33-minute video because what was happening was as I was every single tiny little thing, there are some presets, but every single tiny little thing I had to look up a YouTube video on how to do the zoom effect or how to do whatever I was trying to do. Watch that video multiple times to see exactly what they were hitting and when. And I don't know keyframing or anything. I didn't. Now I can say I do, but it was painful. It was extremely tedious. So at one point, as I was going and I was editing this video, the castor oil video, I had again another brilliant idea to do most of the editing in my old software that was much easier and much quicker for me. And then load that into the new editing software into Adobe and add the things that I wanted to add. And that's what I did. The problem was um, in my old software, I had uh, AI voice settings, um, that enhanced my voice. And I did not think about that. So when I added it to Adobe, I also added the AI voice enhancement and decreased the background noise and added equalizers and all kinds of things. And as I said in the comments, on my laptop when I'm editing, speakers are okay, but they're not great. And I wasn't using headphones or anything like that. So the sound in the video wound up getting super compressed. And that's why everything sounds so horrific. And I deeply apologize. But then the other side of it was also normally, right before I upload a video, I really don't know how it's going to do. You don't know until you upload it. So, um, when I heard the sound on my computer, I was like, "Oh, it sounds kind of wonky, but hopefully it's better when I upload." Well, it wasn't. It wasn't. And again, I deeply apologize for that. But um, and then the other issue was that this video got views overnight that was just astounding. Normally, I'm used to getting maybe, a few hundred views in 24 hours, sometimes better, but on average, most of my videos are not groundbreaking viral within the first 24 hours. And I kind of just left it that, went to bed, and when I woke up in the morning, I had all these notifications from YouTube. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? And when I opened it, I already had several thousand views on this video, and I was shocked. So that was the first part of it. The next part, and a lot of the comments I got were people complaining about, or not everybody, a few, but it's enough that I read all the comments, as I've said a million times, and I respond, and I take those comments and I use them for feedback, and I take them to heart. And a lot of people were saying, "Oh my God, I couldn't watch this because there were so many commercials." It was like, it made it seem like commercial after commercial. So that's another thing I wanted to address. When I upload the video, I don't know how it's going to do. And yes, now that any channel that's monetized, when you're editing, when you're going to upload it into YouTube, it gives you the option to either just let YouTube take care of it, or to have more of play a role, play more of a role in where the ads are placed. Because somewhere along the line, sometimes YouTube puts them in kind of weird, wonky areas. And I remember watching a video early on and somebody saying, be very careful, pay attention to where you place ads, because A, YouTube sometimes doesn't play them, and B, sometimes they're in really bad spots. Um, the thing is, and a lot of people don't know this unless you are a creator, when you're uploading that video, you could put 8,000 ads throughout the entire video. You could put one every minute if you want to. It doesn't mean that YouTube is going to play all of them. It depends on a lot. It depends on what type of video it is. It depends on the audience. It depends on how you rated the video, who your audience was. There's a lot that goes into it. You know, financial channels that talk about credit cards and things like that, um, they have different ads than I do. But anyway, so before uploading, you don't really know how a video is going to do. So, I always try and keep my ads to a minimum, but I will add a few more. Now, hey, Sweden, I'm so happy you joined me. You're the first one to comment, so I appreciate that so much. I hope you're doing well there. Anyway, back to my story. So when I uploaded it and had all these thousands of views right away, of course YouTube, they've been doing this a while, and they're not they're not dumb. So they see a video that's doing well and they're like, "Well, we're going to send out a bunch of ads." So that's all of the ads get played. So for those that are experiencing a lot of ads on this video, again, I apologize, but I have very little control. I can go in and remove some, which I plan on doing now that I see, this video is getting up into the 300,000 views. But so anyway, those are the two things that I wanted to get out ahead of. The sound in the video, I know, atrocious. And I went out, and because of this, I purchased a Rode wireless mic, which I'm using tonight for the first time. And I'm praying that the sound is better. Let me know in the comments if you're hearing me okay. So anyway, on to castor oil. I got a ton of comments. Let me just check because right now I want to see how many comments we're up to. Um, yeah, so I think we're up to 837 comments. So out of that 837 so far, the questions that I'm going to address tonight are the ones that came up most frequently. Um, so let's see. Oh, oh, hey, you're a doctor. What are your thoughts on alternative? Okay, perfect. I'm glad you can hear me. Uh, so my thoughts on alternative medicine being commercialized to younger peers. You know, quite honestly, I'm a big fan of alternative practices, whatever they may be. I mean, there's Ayurveda that we're actually going to touch on tonight, and I think my take on alternative practices is I think that most of our medicine started that way. There are so many medications, opium from the poppy flower, digoxin, things like everything. So I think a lot of our medicine is based in natural homeopathic. I know there's a fine distinction between homeopathy and natural remedies, et cetera. But so, am I a conspiracy theorist if I say this? But I think that what happened l- largely is that big pharma, they didn't want to compete. And there's a lot of history that I have looked into when I've done other videos on natural remedies. And they didn't want to compete. So they deemed it as quackery and they really just pushed it down so that the mainstream drug companies practices. There was also a lot of stuff with the uh, well, I can't think of it. The medical boards, um, the AMA, American Medical Association, same type of situation uh, that they did not want to have anybody impinging or impinging isn't the right word, creeping up on their grounds. So a lot of the natural practices and practitioners got just demolished. So to answer your question, I am a firm believer in both natural remedies and modern medicine. And I think it's magical when you can find the right combination. As far as marketing it to, younger peers, I think it's well overdue that there's a push to accept a lot of these practices now. And I think this is what you're asking, rather than just have an all or nothing approach. My one issue with this, and Dr. Mike actually talked about this with Healthy Gamer, is where somebody goes after natural alternative practices and negates westernized medicine and more mainstream practices. So what is that balance here? I think it's a good thing in the long run, but finding the balance of combining them, can they play nice in the sandbox together? I it remains to be seen. Hey William, good to see you. Royals. Aha. Okay, so I hope that that answer in Sweden colostrum is starting to be, let's see. So I'm going to put some of these comments up on the screen. So in Sweden colostrum is starting to be a thing for immunodeficiency. Very good studies. I think that's incredible because we know how beneficial colostrum is. That's what gets a baby through the first early part of their life. So I'm not surprised. It makes sense to me. So I'd be curious because, if that's the case, I would love to see those studies. I'm going to look it up maybe for a future video, actually. So, William, this is a long time viewer. Hello again. My castor oil use is motivated by your video. I'm not new to the oil, but the daily use has been very successful. That's fantastic. And I am going to get into the castor oil momentarily. So let me start out. I'm getting a lot. You're welcome. I'm getting a lot of questions here. So, all right, let's see. Nope, not the right one. Okay. It's been a while since I've done a live, so bear with me while I get the hang of this again. All right, so tonight's live is based on this video that I did. It's probably about 3 weeks ago at this point, which was castor oil for neuropathy and my results after 30 days. So, for those of you watching that don't know, I have neuropathy. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I've been a practicing nurse for over 30 years now. And I was diagnosed with diabetes at about 40 years old. So over the past 3 years, I recognized the neuropathy. And anybody watching YouTube on a semi-regular basis has seen the absolute explosion of videos about castor oil. It's claiming to be the holy grail of everything from acne treatment to putting it in your belly button for liver detox. There's all kinds of stuff. And I took one look at this and I watched a few videos and I thought, okay, did some research, looked and see, I saw it had tremendous anti-inflammatory properties. And then I dove deeper into it. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm just going to try it. So that 30 days, and I was a hardcore skeptic going into this. It made sense on paper when I was doing the research, but again, very, very skeptical. Within the first night, I I woke up the next day and not only did I sleep better, which I'm also going to get into, but within about an hour, I noticed that my neuropathy symptoms, which are not super bad to begin with, and that's another thing I'm going to address. A lot of people are saying, my neuropathy is just really bad, and I didn't get any results. And I prefaced the video and said, my neuropathy is mild to moderate. There's some days it's worse than others, so you might not get the same results I did. But I was shocked at what happened. All right, so the people that are best known for castor oil therapy in general are Barbara O'Neill and Edgar Cayce. He actually wrote a book, which I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see. So, for those out there that have never heard of them, and I can't imagine that because these are two very well known holistic practitioners. Edgar Cayce is obviously known for many other things, but Barbara O'Neill is all over all over TikTok, with people reposting her presentations on natural remedies, castor oil being one of them, and Edgar Cayce. So Edgar Cayce actually wrote a book. I'm trying to see if I have it. Well, anyway, so Edgar Cayce wrote a book, and it was basically you know, healthy, I think it's healthy living with a drugless approach or something like that. And I will put all the links to everything I'm talking about in the description below, but huge, huge fans of castor oil. So with all of this information that I was able to find, um, you know, I thought I'm going to try it for neuropathy. And one of the other things that Edgar Cayce had talked about was it's the castor oil. He called it uh, Palma Christi, I believe. Uh, anyway, so a lot of people get confused by the two different names, but he referred to it as something else. But it is essentially castor oil, and a long-term history going back all the way to Egypt. They found information that it was used back then too. All right, so let's see. Let's see the comments. Hi, Scott. Hi, Scott. Which state am I based in? I am in New Jersey. All right. I read most of Edgar Casey's books, wealth of information on healing. Barbara O'Neill is good for other natural protocols. Very true. Sleepless in Seattle, on pregabalin, duloxetine, ALA, looking at castor oil. Well, I can't recommend it enough, honestly. Um, the update now since I uploaded the video is that pretty much on a daily basis now, my neuropathy symptoms continue to improve. Where I where I was having issues at night mostly, which is usually when neuropathy kicks up, I was having a lot of burning electric pins and needles in my feet mostly. I would notice that going up my legs, I would have areas, it felt it's the stocking glove effect. Basically, that's what I'm referring to, but that's what I started happening. And it was more notable when I was in the shower, and I attribute that to the heat. But it just, if I touched my leg, it wasn't numb per se, but when I didn't, it felt like I had something over. It's a very strange sensation. It's very disconcerting. And anybody who sees me, if I look like I'm sweating, I probably am because it is 100 million degrees here in New Jersey. And my air condition, we don't have central air in my little lake house. My air condition's all the way in the other room. So it is quite toasty with the lights on in here. All right, so let's get to the first question. Um, so, very common question throughout all of the comments. Does it have to be in a glass bottle and certified organic? And the short answer is absolutely. So, what happens with castor oil? So, castor oil comes from the castor bean plant. And during processing, the way they extract castor oil, I'm not a professional castor oil manufacturer, of course, but I did do some research because this question came up of times. So when castor beans are prepared to extract the oil, they're pulverized in a way where the oil is separated from the pulp, and then the oil that's left, I believe, is heated, or it can be cold pressed. That's one thing that I meant to look up before I did the live tonight. But anyway, sometimes you'll see cold pressed, and that's the one that I use, um, which I believe is just kind of how they press for olive oil as well. I'm not sure of the exact mechanics there, but anyway. Um, and then it is heated, I want to say, at a certain point, and that is to remove the ricin, which is toxic. So what happens so ricin is a byproduct and it's found in the pulp after the castor beans are pulverized. And then this is separated from what they call the mash. In certain conditions, it's heated and the ricin is extracted. So in doing this, that's why you want it certified organic because you want to make sure that they've gone through all of these steps to remove the impurities that are a natural byproduct of making the oil in the first place. And Coco's here with us tonight. Um, so yes, and I mean the dark glass bottle is to protect it from light because with any oil, any unless it's, you know, sunflower oil, they can be in clear glass bottles. But with most really high quality oil, you'll notice it is in a dark glass bottle, and that's because light can cause it to turn or go rancid a lot quicker. And you definitely want to make sure that it is organic. So a lot of people in the comments were coming back and saying, you know, I can go to my CVS and they have it sitting right there on the counter, or in that the oil section, not olive oil, baby oil, and things like that. Um, but yeah, it does have to be organic. So unless it's in a glass bottle and it says it's organic, then I would steer clear of that. All right. Okay. I am going to get to the question about, or I'm going to get to this question in a little bit. How much of it do I take? I'm trying to move in an orderly fashion. So I make sure I touch on all of the questions that people asked. Um, okay, so question two, best application method. And as I said in the video, this is kind of you have to kind of fit it to what you're looking to use it for. For me personally, because I was looking to use it for neuropathy, that's in my lower feet, legs, even some up here in my wrist, I was having it. Uh, so did I do all of the castor oil packs and things like that? No, I didn't. For people that are looking to coca, for people that are looking to detox their liver, and I'm going to touch on that as well. There are a million other uses for castor oil: liver detox, constipation, which is more of an oral preparation, um, aches, pains, menstrual cramps, things like that, adhesions. Then, yes, a castor oil pack might be better suited to that. And a lot of people ask me how you make one. There are videos all over TikTok, YouTube, going into the preparation. Let me share my screen again. Hmm, I'm not sure if you can see this yet. Let's see. Nope. I don't know why this is working. I got it to work before, but anyway, let's try it this way. I had opened up all of these pages just so I could move through them a lot easier. And as you can see, All right, here we go. All right, so I'm sharing my whole screen, but so this was, oh, no, this is the wrong one. So this is talking about what you had mentioned earlier about Ayurveda and why it helps with the feet, but we're going to get into that in a little bit. That's not what I was looking for. See if I can find what I was looking for. Here we go. All right. So one of the viewers wrote in and basically summed up castor oil pack making very succinctly. So I hope she doesn't mind, but I copied her comment straight off. Castor oil packs work great. Put castor oil on the area and next cover it with a damp washcloth, which I hadn't heard about before. Most people will say put the castor oil on, cover it with plastic wrap, which she does mention here, but I hadn't heard about the washcloth before. So I guess that's obviously adding some moist heat to it. And then cover with plastic wrap and then use a heating pad. So it might take a few applications, but you should get relief. So I thought, this was very simple and succinct. Um, I really just took a palm-sized amount and started at my feet and massaging it all the way up. But I got so many comments with people saying, "How much did you apply?" And here's the thing. I'm 5 foot 5 inches, so not very tall. The amount that I need to cover my entire foot and up to my knee is going to be a lot less than somebody who's 6'2". So it's all relative, but I got a lot of comments and questions asking about the specific amount that I used. I basically just took my hand, filled my palm, which I think, would match up with how big of a person you are. Your palm's going to be bigger than mine. So I put it on to the point where I had a good amount. And what is a good amount? It wasn't dripping off of me. It wasn't I My leg wasn't saturated, but I had a good coating of it. It's very, very thick and viscous. Uh, a lot more so than I even thought. Very thick, and it can almost be a little, not, I wouldn't say difficult to spread and massage in, but I usually wind up going back at least one other time and adding a little more to my palm and then working it up. After all is said and done, I would say that, if you were to run your finger over my foot or leg, you would come up and be able to see the oil on your fingertip, but it absorbs fairly quickly. I would say, a half an hour after application, I can still tell I just applied the oil. It hasn't absorbed completely, but it's not to the point where I just applied it and it's very evident that I just applied it. So, this is all relative. The application part of it is relative to what you're using the castor oil for and how big of a person or area you're looking to treat. Since then, when I saw the results from the castor oil with my neuropathy, I've since also tried it um, on my belly. Uh, I've tried it. I did try it on my eyelids. A lot of people will mention it helps with their vision. They use it for cataracts and things like that. I can't really speak to that. I've put it on my eyelids. I did get some on my face, as I said, and I wound up getting a little itchy, but that seemed to go away in a couple of hours. So, however you're going to apply it, I would say that do a patch test first. Use it with caution, just in case you do react to it. Castor oil is a triglyceride. It's a fatty acid. Um, so if you've used olive oil in the same fashion, it's kind of the same thing except it's a little thicker than olive oil. But for the most part, it's got emollient effects. It seals in moisture. Many people have also written in saying, I put it all over my body as soon as I get out of the shower. And I am not opposed to this. I mean, great. If you have arthritis in certain areas, I have no problem with anybody using this for a multitude of treatments. But, one of the known side effects of castor oil application can be diarrhea. And it, it surprised me. um, when I first used this, I did use it fairly sparingly and didn't really notice too much. And then when I finally gave myself the green light, like, heck, this really helped. I'm going to really give it a good go. Gonna get it on my feet, legs. Well, the next day, I don't even think it was the next day. I think it was a few hours later. Let me tell you, without getting too graphic, whoo, doggy. So be careful with using castor oil in a multitude of places. We're going to touch on the oral dosing of it as well. Um, okay, so let's go back. I want to make sure I answered everything. Okay, so a few other points I also wanted to make looking at my notes here. So as I said, it's a triglyceride or a fatty acid, but it also contains a lot of other compounds in it. It has salts and esters, flavonoids, which are act as antioxidants, phenolic compounds, which are anti-inflammatory, anti-aging, found in plants and veggies. So phenols, amino acids, as I just mentioned, which are the building blocks of proteins, and terpenoids, which are antiviral, anti-cancer, anti-malarial, and it also has hypoglycemic activities, which I just saw this, but I wanted to dive into that a little more because I I have sort of noticed that my sugar hasn't been as erratic, but I don't know that I'm attributing this to the castor oil per se. I have to do more of a focused trial with that. But yes, the terpenoids in castor oil can have hypoglycemic activities, whatever that means. And then phytosterols, which are plant sterols, and they help with cholesterol management. So all of these components in castor oil are why it's used in a wide variety of industries, cosmetics, biofuels, everything I mentioned. Um, so let's, all right. So the next question I'm going to touch on is the difference between regular castor oil and the Jamaican black castor oil. So regular castor oil is what I explained earlier, how it's made, which is it's the beans are pulverized, separated, etc. I won't go back through that again. But with Jamaican black castor oil, it's made a little bit differently where it's heated, and then I believe the ash also, let me just look that back up again because I thought I wrote it here. All right. All right. So in regular castor oil, the castor plant seeds are cold pressed, which results in a light yellow oil. So the oil that, I use is very light, very mild, almost has kind of like almost has a mild nutty odor. I haven't tasted it. We're going to get into that, but it also has, I can't explain it. To me, it has it's not a chemical scent. I can't put my finger on it, but it smells like something that might be put into a car for their for its, oil change. It's got some element of that it's very mild. It's not bad, but I did notice that. But anyway, so that's regular castor oil. Jamaican black castor oil, the beans are roasted before pressing them. And then this gives the oil a darker color and a higher pH value. There's also something in there about the ash, um, I guess, with the roasting, but that's the difference. I can't say that one is better than the other. A lot of people have used Jamaican black castor oil versus regular castor oil. Let me know in the comments if you do. All right, let's take a look and see. Right, Slim. Hey, Slim. I'm about 2 weeks into rubbing castor oil into my feet at night after watching my video and so far I have seen some improvement in severity. Fantastic. And I have had a lot of people commenting that very thing. Um, Others have also commented that they've been using castor oil for quite a long time, and their parents had them taking it when they were very little too, which I find very interesting. I mean, again, castor oil has been around for a very long time. So I'm not surprised. But one viewer actually wrote in saying there were several siblings and they used to his mom would line all of them up every day and give them a spoonful of castor oil by mouth, and did it for years and years because her parents had done that with her, etc. So this is something that is even passed down through generations of families. If you know, you know. But many viewers have written in saying that they've found some relief or tremendous relief with the castor oil. All right. The drops in your eyes make me wonder if it would help certain eye conditions, but still oil in the. I agree. And that's another thing that I looked into when I was researching this, which is how are you putting what castor oil in the eyes? Just you know what that would feel like. I know I don't think that's good. If I even touch my eyes when I get out of the shower and I have baby oil, I usually put baby oil on after the shower. It's bothering me the whole time. I feel like I have this smudge in my eyeball. But I think what people do is they rub it on their eyelids and it gets absorbed that way and probably just kind of seeps into the inner part of the eye gradually. And most, I think, do this before they go to bed at night so their eyes will be closed anyway. Um, I haven't tried the eyes. Some people even put it on their eyebrows. They talk about it for hair growth. We're not going to get into all of that, but some people swear by it. I also wipe the excess on my, yeah, I have done that. Um, I don't know. I think I look pretty good, but I don't know if it's from the castor oil or not. Yeah, wrinkles and laugh lines. Okay. All right. So it looks like I'm caught up with the comments. So let's go back to the questions. Okay. All right. So, this was another super common question, how to protect clothes and sheets. So, my take on this, I mean, when I apply castor oil at night, I feel like I have dog hair in my nose. When I apply it at night, I do it probably an hour before I go to bed. And I'll put a towel down on the floor to protect the floor, but pretty much, if I'm watching TV, I just kind of stay put, or I have my Crocs. I'm a Croc girl, so they're rubber. Um, but I'll sit there and I'll apply it about an hour before bed. And by the time I go to bed, it's yes, it's not 100% absorbed, but it's not to the point where I'm concerned about it rubbing off on clothes or sheets or anything like that. It's pretty well absorbed. If for whatever reason, I'm getting into bed and maybe it's not absorbed, I might put a towel down. I've done that a couple of times on my sheets, but my my take on this is I don't know about everybody watching. I don't wear silk pajamas to bed. At this stage of my life, maybe on a special occasion, but I'm not wearing really nice clothes to bed. And my sheets, they're nice sheets, but they're not super expensive sheets either. So am I worried about this? Not really. Um, if I have a little too much on, I'll put a towel down on the bed, but I have yet to come away where I notice any staining or anything on my pajamas or the sheets. And the way I feel about it is there's many ways around this. Either apply it a little bit earlier so it has longer to absorb, or don't wear, really good pajamas on the nights that you are applying it. If you're doing it every night, then, you know, adjust as you see fit. And if you're worried about sheets, if they're $2,000 bed sheets, then I don't recommend that you put castor oil on and get right into bed. You know, uh, some of the questions like this, I think are obvious to answer, and I'm not, trying to, um, call anybody out. I got a lot of these questions. This was a huge concern for many people. This is all fine and great, but you know, how do I apply it if I'm getting into bed? So that's my take on this. If it's helping your neuropathy, then that is worth not having to take a million prescriptions that are probably way more expensive, most likely than the pajamas or the sheets that you're getting into. Um, so it's a trade-off. You either apply it a little earlier. So at the most, I'll put a towel down, just to absorb, but I haven't really had any issues. And then also, I had another viewer ask, do you have any special washing techniques, if you get the oil on your clothes? Well, this is like for any oil that you might get on your clothes. I think my grandmother used to use baking soda, I want to say, to absorb it. But since depending on where you're using it, this might be over a very large area. So I would just say just don't wear really great pajamas if you're that concerned about it. All right. All right. So this huge question, a lot of confusion over whether you can take it orally. Are capsules better than just a spoonful of it? Because castor oil does come in capsule form. Um, or you can mix it into tea, whatever. There's nothing out there saying that you can't do this. But uh, hearkening back to what I said earlier about the side effects, be very careful with this. It might take some time to work up to adjusting if you are going to take it orally, but just to give you an idea, Castor oil is one of the ingredients in bowel prep. When you're having a colonoscopy, yeah. So, can you take it orally? Yes. Is it going to hurt you, damage you? Some people will get mildly nauseous from it, but over time, I think you just kind of become accustomed to it. Yes, you can take it orally. Is it going to help the neuropathy any better? I don't I don't really think so. Most people taking it orally, they'll tell you it's for a million reasons. Like I said, that one viewer wrote in saying his mother had them taking castor oil every day. Um, it has detoxifying properties, anti-inflammatory properties, antiviral properties, all of those things. I don't know that taking it orally is going to be any better. The only thing it will accomplish is helping you to completely evacuate your bowels. Um, my vote is to apply it topically or do a castor oil pack. So if you do, and again, here, let me try go back and share my screen again. If you do take it orally, this is the best explanation of what I found to do that. Okay. So castor oil taken internally depends on what you're using it for, as I just said. Also, other factors, existing age, your existing medical conditions, response to laxative type treatments, because that is largely the effect it's going to have. If taking it orally for adults for constipation or whatever you're using it for, the range is 15 between 15 and 60 milliliters. Now, the small medicine cups that you get with cough syrup, I think they're usually 10 milliliter cups. So I would say it's, maybe it says 1 to 4 teaspoons per day. Now, 1 tablespoon equals 3 teaspoons. Um, if you do a tablespoon of castor oil a day, I think that will suffice. But 60 milliliters a day, to me, screams bowel prep. And take a week off from work before you do that. This is something that you would want to gradually build up to rather than just downing a bunch of castor oil and expecting it to do anything but have you spending quite a bit of time in the bathroom. So if you go to a CVS or whatever and you pick up any castor oil stimulant type laxative, and this is the only thing, by the way, that it is approved by the FDA for, is the laxative effect. If you go and you look at the box or the dosing on that, I that would suffice for me. If you're taking this for other reasons, holistically, for whatever, condition you have, I would say a tablespoon, maybe even a little, start out slow, maybe do a teaspoon and gradually work up to it. And then I would say a tablespoon should do you. That should be just fine. Can you mix it in tea and other drinks? Yes. Some people will mix it in orange juice or whatever. Um, tea, it's gonna. I'm trying to remember what else I'm thinking of. You can put anything you want, really. It's not going to really affect it. Coffee, tea, whatever, but it's gonna have that oily feel to it. And I remember when I was doing keto, and I'm also gonna got a lot of comments about keto. But anyway, when I was doing keto, um, a lot of people were putting like ghee. It's called ghee, which is a clarified, purified butter in their coffee. Um, and it just has such a strange feel in the mouth. So castor oil is going to do the same thing. I would very much rather just take a tablespoon of it or whatever you're taking, get it over with, rather than mixing it in anything, unless you've got a small glass of orange juice or whatever, and just you're going to just shoot it down real quick. Then I could see it, but I don't know that I would get too complicated with the oral dosing. All right. So let's see. Okay, so how I hope that I answered your question just now. How much and how do you take it? I have numb ankles and all of the rest of the symptoms. Okay. So forget about the oral prep. I would just palm-sized amount in your hand, uh, work it up your feet. I usually do pretty good foot massage when I'm getting this in. I work over any calluses or rough skin, dry skin, and then massage up your foot around your ankles and then up your leg in an upward fashion. You're also stimulating lymphatic drainage here, which I think also kind of is it helps this along. It helps the detoxification because it stimulates your lymph system to kind of move that sludge along through your body. So yeah, that's how I would for neuropathy. That's how I would do it. All right, I'm about 2 weeks into rubbing organic castor oil, high slim, into my feet at night after. Oh, I read this before. I thought you. Okay. All right. So I did all of these. Let's see. All right. Scott, let's see. Laundry detergent would remove any castor oil that it absorbed. Okay. So yeah, that's what I have found. I quite honestly haven't even paid attention to the whole. I don't. I'm not pulling my sheets out and looking to see exactly where my feet are and if I had any castor oil on my sheets. But that's just me. Again, if you have really expensive sheets, maybe I recommend you don't do this or do it earlier. All right, William, let's see. I had flashed my eyes with a mirror in the sun inadvertently and healed with oil in eyes at night. Okay. William, let us know. Did you actually put the drops in your eye or did you rub it on your eyelids? I would be curious just to see. What about applying it? Hi, Gen 60. What about applying it in the morning, watch the news for an hour? What? Yeah, I don't see any problem with that. I just happen to do it before bed because that's usually when I'm noticing my neuropathy the most is right before bed, and, that's why. Um, but yeah, I don't see any problem with doing that. You put it in your eyes, okay. So, in eyes. Okay. William, did you notice any, blurring or any issues with that? Did you do it at night, or did you use a dropper full? Like, how did you apply it for those that might wanna know? Okay, and the other thing I wanted to also talk about when we went back to we were talking about the oral preparation. So, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of people were concerned about the toxic effects of ricin. That is, part of castor oil during the preparation. So, just to clarify, ricin is only toxic if the castor beans are chewed. And then what happens here is because this is a fatty acid, it prevents protein synthesis because it affects something with the cell that it is not able to synthesize protein. So that is why ricin, which many of you have probably heard of, because usually it's used in powder form. And I think there's even a story in there about somebody potentially you know, by one of our three-letter agencies who had ricin on the tip of an umbrella spike and walked past somebody and stuck them with it, and it was coated with ricin, and they passed away. But that is what happens. So yes, it can be toxic if it's not in the purified form. There was also another girl that during my research I ran into that um, had, I forget which country she lived in, but she had apparently chewed a very small, minor amount of castor beans unknowingly and did wind up getting very ill, but recovered and was fine. But that's, as far as it being toxic, that's what happens. And then, when it's swallowed, um, let's see. Oh, that was about sleep. Okay, so when you're taking the castor oil orally, when it's swallowed, it's hydrolyzed into the small intestine by pancreatic enzymes, and then glycerol and the racinoleic acid are released, which are the beneficial metabolites. So it breaks things down in the small intestine, which a lot of things are. But that's how the oral dosing is broken down and how you get the benefits that way. Okay, so another interesting thing that I also didn't touch on before when I was talking about the lymphatic system, there was a small double-blind study published in the Journal of Naturopathic Medicine, and it found that adults who used abdominal castor oil packs had significant increases in the production of lymphocytes, which they're part of the immune system and they're the natural disease fighters of the immune system, and they attack outside invaders such as toxins, bacteria, and other perceived threats. All right. Okay, so many other people also wrote in asking, if it will help various other conditions. Plantar fasciitis, my light's going to go out, which you might see flashing in the back, but plantar fasciitis, which involves the foot, um, yes, many people use it strictly for plantar fasciitis, as a matter of fact, because castor oil has the ability to break up inflammatory tissue, and that's why it's used for abdominal adhesions. And some people will put it on cysts or lipomas and things like that. So yes, the anti-inflammatory properties will absolutely help with plantar fasciitis. But one of the other questions, I got a lot of these, but several people also asked, will this also help for MS, myositis, small fiber? So with MS, I I don't really, it might help with the symptoms of MS, but MS is a demyelinating condition involving the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord. And it's usually not involved with pain. Um, that's not to say they don't experience, MS sufferers don't experience pain, because along with MS, there's usually a lot of other autoimmune conditions. Peripheral neuropathy might be one of them, small fiber might be one of them. So the way I'm going to approach this answer is, will it help anything with the nervous system centrally, with the brain and spinal cord? I I, I can't really say. I want to lean towards no, because even though MS is dealing with the demyelination, which is the myelin sheets, which is a fatty covering. So they haven't found anything to cure MS. They have plenty of disease modulating agents out there. But so I'm leaning towards no. And I would think that if they had discovered this was beneficial in any way, they might have come forward with this. But I am also a believer in it's mild enough that it wouldn't hurt to try. And it might help with other symptoms you're having, numbness, tingling, burning, other type of neuropathic pain symptoms that may coincide with MS and the autoimmune conditions. Also, another thing I wanted to mention as far as the eye application, many people will use this for a disease called Sjogren's syndrome, which is dry eye. It's dry eye, mucosal membranes, dry mouth. It is an autoimmune condition, but it is frequently paired with other conditions like myositis, which is an inflammatory muscle condition. So, my blanket answer to this is, will it cure all of these? Probably not. Might it help the symptoms of all of them? I tend to think it would. So if you have one of these conditions, MS, myositis, small fiber neuropathy, um, CIDP, or chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, it wouldn't hurt to try. It definitely would not hurt to try. And if you do, I would be very interested in hearing what happened. Whether that's in the comments section, I monitor them every day, and or you can email me, which at the end of this, I'll put my email up on screen. All right, so we're getting towards the end. Another question that came up is peripheral neuropathy a condition or a symptom of diabetes? So peripheral neuropathy in itself is a condition, but it's often associated with other autoimmune conditions, diabetes being one of them. And what happens with diabetes specifically is the high levels of glucose in the system. Um, it damages, it usually starts, it's length dependent, is what we call it. It starts with the very, very tiny, tiny nerves in the feet and then gradually works its way up higher in the body. And something like small fiber, it can actually move all the way up into the trunk where you can have some abdominal symptoms, which, I might have a touch of small fiber because I did have some abdominal symptoms. But anyway, so it is a condition on its own because it can be caused by many different things. It can be from diabetes, it can be from a response to a vaccine. Um, it could be as a result of another type of condition, inflammatory condition. A lot of people with rheumatoid arthritis, which castor oil has also shown benefit for. Uh, so the anti-inflammatory properties of castor oil will help regardless of what is triggering the neuropathy, potentially will help. But yes, PN is a condition on its own. It's got to do with the frying out and damaging of the nerves, whether that's from diabetes or any of the other conditions that I mentioned. All right, so the last question I want to address is the better sleep issue. Um, I did not even pay attention to the reports of better sleep or improved sleep. I'd seen them in the periphery when I was doing my research and didn't pay too much attention to them. But that very first night after I applied it, and as I said, I'm a pretty hardcore insomniac. I mean, me staying up until 4, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and feeling completely fine is not unusual. Um, but the first night that I applied castor oil, I slept and I felt a kind of an overwhelming, just pleasant heaviness throughout my body. But the other thing was I didn't just feel that heaviness where I drifted off to sleep easier. I also had a pretty sound sleep throughout the night. And when I woke up in the morning, I noticed that. But again, I didn't think too much of it. But then subsequent evenings after applying it, I noticed that this whole almost 2 months now, I have slept pretty darn well at night. And I went back and I looked into it a little more, anticipating the live tonight. Let me find where my notes are. All right, so there is some indication. So a viewer wrote in saying, well, the reason you slept was probably because you gave yourself a foot massage. And when you do this, there are certain meridians, uh, energy or nerve meridians in the foot that can benefit. So, yes, is it relaxing? Of course, a foot massage is relaxing. But again, I mean, a foot massage after 30 years of insomnia, it's not going to do it for me. So while it's relaxing and it feels nice, I don't think that's, I've had plenty of massages, foot massages, and none of them led to me sleeping better that night. Um, so I don't know, but I also wanted to show you this. Oh, where did it go? Let's see. Here we go. All right. So what this talks about is an Ayurvedic practice. The feet are considered the primary site for a practice known as, and I am going to probably butcher these pronunciations, Pada Abhyanga, or foot massage. Massaging the feet with natural oils such as castor oil is believed to have profound impact on the entire body, and here's why. Marma points. So the feet are home to numerous marma points, which are vital energy points similar to acupressure points. Massaging these points with castor oil can help balance the flow of prana, which is life energy, I believe, life force energy, yeah, in the body, promoting harmony and relaxation. Okay, perfectly understand that. Warmth and grounding, when applied to the feet, castor oil imparts a soothing warmth that can have a grounding effect. This warmth is thought to encourage a deeper sense of relaxation. I can buy that. And then detoxification, it is believed to help draw impurities from the body, which, when applied to the feet, may contribute to detoxification. Now, as far as the detoxification, one viewer did write in saying, the oil, when you apply any oil to the body, it does not absorb to the blood levels, which it doesn't. The only thing that absorbs when you apply it topically that will absorb into the skin is usually alcohol. However, I believe that, since the castor oil is so heavy and thick and rich, as it absorbs, I mean, it is picked up in the capillaries, which is still the blood level, but there's got to be something to the detoxification effects that gets absorbed and broken down and converted in some way to these other components. Um, Taking it orally, I'm not really sure if that would have any effect either, um, as far as detox. But there's so many people doing this for so long that whatever happens, and again, it's broken down into individual components in the small intestine. So whatever happens there leads to detoxification. Now, was I able to find any real information on this? Not really. If anything, I found the opposite information with many peer-reviewed articles claiming that this is an old wives' tale. There isn't a lot of truth to this. So, where do I stand? This is again me coming back to whether it works or whether it doesn't. If people are feeling better after applying castor oil packs, whether that's due to pulling toxins from the body or not, I say go for it. There was also something not too long ago with people putting potatoes on the bottoms of their feet and claim on the feet, on the bottom of their feet, claiming that the potato in the morning would turn black because of all the toxins it pulled from the body. That I don't believe. That is a load of BS, if you ask me. Do I believe that toxins can be removed in that fashion? Absolutely not. We don't have these toxic cells floating around in our body with little pitchforks that lead through the bottom of our feet. But there's got to be something to the castor oil that happens internally. However, it's transmuted in our bodies that causes benefit to happen from these other compounds that are contained within it. All right, so let's see. Okay. Danielle, how do you take care of your hands? You have very beautiful hands. Oh, well, thank you. Well, I am a hand cream fiend, actually. It's it's almost like a tick in me that I'm constantly putting on hand cream. When I apply castor oil, just over the last 2 months, I have been making sure that I rub it into my hands and wrists, some on my neck and my chest. Um, but that's about it. I need to be careful of getting it up by my face because I did have that itchy rash. But thank you. That's very, very sweet, Kirby, of you to say. All right, LF. Would it help with cold feet? I have to sleep with a heating pad on them all night, or the coldness is so bad that it hurts and I cannot sleep. So it sounds to me, um, have you ever been diagnosed with small fiber or Raynaud's? I mean, it's not to say that my feet don't get cold. All of for some reason, women, our feet get cold, and any of our husbands, boyfriends, whoever's sleeping with us will attest to that because they're usually the ones that are suffering the brunt of that. So here with the cold feet, would it help? I don't know for sure. My thinking and following the logical line of thought here is that if you're massaging it into your feet, you're already improving the circulation that way. I think what happens with the castor oil, because as I said, I had a warming sensation after application. I think what might happen with the castor oil is it is so thick and heavy, it helps to lock in the heat within our system instead of having it just evaporate out of our skin. It's kind of like putting an oily glove or sock on your foot. That's my thinking. I don't know if chemically at any level it would help with that. Again, this goes back to the detoxification. I mean, it's broken down into individual compounds, the racinoleic acid, et cetera, which has benefits. It's a fatty acid. Specifically for the cold feet, though, I think it's going to come down to less heat loss through your extremities because it's so thick and viscous, and the fact that you're manually massaging your feet, getting the blood pumping and flowing, moving it up your leg. I think that's probably if it's going to help, that's probably what it would be attributed to. Autonomic neuropathy, yeah. So, yes, this could be POTS, dysautonomia, usually goes hand in hand with small fiber neuropathy. But this is what I was just referring to with the cold feet and things like that. You can have one foot and leg cold and the other hot. It's very disconcerting with specifically autonomic neuropathy. Uh, might be if William might be a photosensitivity issue in the daytime, but help the floaters go. Okay. Okay. So this was your earlier comment. Let's see. William, I use it on eyelids frequently. I had crusty residue. Yes, I used a dropper, but don't know how much. Okay. So I would just, you know, take a logical approach here to how much you're dropping in your eye. I would try a very small amount, just a very, maybe one drop, and see what happens. And then on eyelids in daytime can sting a little. Yeah, and I would tend to think I mean, if you're out in the sun, I would tend to think that if you're putting oil on your eyelids, this is like putting suntan oil on your eyelids. You definitely don't want to do that because it can attract the sun and cause even burning. Uh, okay, all right. We did that one, that one. Okay, Gen 60. My grandmother used it as a poultice around her neck, full of all kinds of stuff, including oils. It would stain her chest yellow for a while, which when she wasn't feeling well. I wonder if she put turmeric in it. That sounds to me like she might have added turmeric in it, which is something else I didn't touch on. People will mix all kinds of things into castor oil. They'll even sometimes mix it with other oils and use it as a carrier oil in that sense. Coconut oil, olive oil. Sometimes it helps to thin it out and it just makes it a little bit easier to apply. Some people don't like the smell of castor oil. I don't find it bad. I I think it smells, as I said earlier, kind of almost like a mild plastic smell, but it might have been turmeric she put in there. No, I haven't been diagnosed with those, but figured it was due to circulation. Yes, I tend to think that's the case, probably. But again, with certain types of neuropathy, change in the temperature and extremities can certainly play into that. Pizza Pete. I have been using castor oil after seeing your video a few weeks ago, and it's amazing. Yeah. Meanwhile, I have decreased my pregabalin to half what I was taking. Oh, thanks for letting us know. Thanks for hopping in, Pete. I mean, I have had so many comments like that, and I get so happy when I hear that it's helping. That's amazing. Scott, mustard pack. Okay, interesting. Well, yeah, mustard seed. I don't know. So in the coming, I don't know if it's going to be in August. I think the next video that I'm going to be doing is on Crohn's disease. After that, I plan on doing a video on I'm going to compile all of the viewers' suggestions that I've gotten over the past year. There's a lot of them, lion's mane, all kinds of things like that. And I'm going to put them into that video. So, onions and garlic. Yeah, I mean, they're both great for your blood pressure, especially. A lot of people don't like them. And then, of course, there's always the ones that will say, aren't they like nightshade or vegetables or onions are um, alkaline, I want to say. There's a lot of people that get all up in arms about onions, but I'm a fan. Let's see. Can you show your palms in detail in front of the camera if you? Oh, I don't know if you can see, but they're my palms. I'm so happy you like my palms, Kirby. All right, so I think that we have reached the end of most of the questions that I wanted to get to. Um, one of the things that I wanted to remind everybody about is there are earlier videos that I did about neuropathy. There's actually a whole playlist, which I'll add in the description of this video tonight. And there's also a few things. One of the things I'm also going to talk about in that upcoming video are neuropathy socks. And let me share my screen because I stumbled onto this doing my research, and every now and then something new will come out. And I was like, I'm definitely going to try these. I don't have them yet. Let's see here. This is what I wanted to show you. They're called nano socks. I haven't tried them yet. I'm going to get a pair, but they're known as neuropathy socks. So they're basically compression socks, which I have worn for most of my nursing career. They're great in that respect, but these specifically apparently help with neuropathy. And obviously, they don't have the toes on them, um, which probably is better for people suffering from neuropathy. But interesting. I'll also put a link to these down below. And then the last thing I want to touch on is um, wow, it just completely left. What was I going to say? Something came into my head and then went right back out. All right. Well, I don't I don't know what that is. It's what time is it? It's 9:30. I'm tired. But anyway, oh, I know what it was. I got many requests for the full article that I had cited in the video, the April 1900 article about using castor oil for it was I believe it was referring to neuralgia. So it was trigeminal neuralgia patients. So I don't have the full article because it requires me to be a member of the peer reviewed journal. I can purchase the article on its own, which I said I would do if I got enough requests for it. So let me know whether it's in the comments or here in the comments now if you'd be interested in reading that. And I will be happy to purchase it and then put it in the description below the original video, or I'll put it in both of these if you want them. Thanks, thanks, Pizza Pete. Um, let's see. Thank you for tonight, Scott. You're welcome. I'm so happy that you were able to join us. And I've also spread the word to my friends who can't take medicines because of past cancer. He's grateful. Thank you so much. It means so much to me. It really does. I want to thank everybody. I'm so deeply grateful to all of you out there. Kirby, you're welcome. Gen 5, you're welcome. Have a great night. I am going to go watch House of Dragons season finale, and I will see you next Sunday.